Welcome. I'm Joseph Bonano, New York City firefighter with Ladder Company 152. I'm also a certified personal fitness trainer and nutritionist and author of the Healthy Firehouse Cookbook. Today's program, we're going to talk about post-fire recovery. You may ask, what is post-fire recovery? Well, it's that critical period of time immediately after a working fire or drill when your body is in a nutritionally depleted state. We're going to talk about some of the items you may want to think about ingesting into your body at that critical period of time. Okay, some of the scenes you may be looking at right now show obvious signs of depletion. But if you've operated at a working fire or drill, you are nutritionally depleted. The storage form of carbohydrate, otherwise known as glycogen, is the fuel that you've used to operate at that working fire. Studies suggest that it's in the area of 20 calories a minute. So it's easy enough to figure out if you've been operating at a fire anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, you're looking at burning 300 to 600 calories per hour. And those calories come from your stored carbohydrates. You're also looking at members of the fire department who've sweated profusely. If you're in an area where the climate is anywhere between 80 to 100 degrees, summer weather, you're going to be sweating. You're carrying anywhere between 50 and 100 pounds of gear, and you're insulated. You're going to be sweating profusely. And we're going to talk about your hydration levels, but we're also going to talk about being nutritionally depleted. And that's what these members of the fire department are in some of the scenes that you may be looking at. They're coming out of the building, arms are hanging down, head hanging down, sweating profusely. They're obviously depleted, and what they're going to be depleted of is some of the things that we're going to be going into in this program. If you're a firefighter, I don't have to tell you how tough it can be operating at a working fire or drill. Well, the period after a working fire or drill, otherwise known as post-fire recovery, are some of the issues we're going to deal with today. And two of those critical issues are hydration and glycogen depletion.
Hydration is the addition of water, differentiated from hydrolysis, where the union with water is accompanied by a splitting of the original molecule and the water molecule. Clinically, it's the taking in of water, used much more commonly in the sense of reduced hydration or dehydration.
The reason we get dehydrated at a working fire is because we sweat, perspire, and exhale some of our body fluids. One of the reasons we do is some of this gear that we're wearing, operating under the conditions of smoke and stress, climbing stairs, ventilating doors, opening roofs, carrying people out of burning buildings. And the amount of water that we could lose at a working fire can amount to 3% of your body weight, or somewhere in the area of 1 to 3 quarts of water. So it's very important to stay well hydrated. But one of the overlooked issues for firefighters, and the second critical nutritional issue in post-fire recovery, is glycogen depletion.
Glycogen is the chief carbohydrate storage material formed and largely stored in the liver, and to a lesser extent in muscles. It's depolymerized to glucose and liberated as necessary. Glycogen depletion is a loss of glucose.
Glycogen is just a fancy word for stored carbohydrate. That's the fuel that you use at a working fire. Remember, you sweat water, but you burn calories. All right? And where do those calories come from? Carbohydrate stores, otherwise known as glycogen. All right, the problem is after working fire, a lot of guys will say, well, what's the difference? Maybe I burned off a little fat. Well, unfortunately, in those 30 to 45 minutes after a working fire or drill, you've become glycogen depleted. Your body is going to access its own lean muscle tissue, turn it into glycogen to restore your carbohydrate levels in your body. So that's a window of opportunity that you have to put some of the glycogen back into your body. All right, your body actually opts to use its own muscle for energy instead of body fat. And actually, that's the worst time to be nutritionally depleted. You've just been in the conditions of smoke and stress. You may not have eaten good all day. You also may be operating at a working fire. It could be knocked down in 15 to 20 minutes. You might be out there overhauling for 2 to 3 hours afterwards. So not only are you nutritionally depleted immediately after the fire, you haven't been able to get any of that carbohydrate stores back in your system. You're in a catabolic state, or in other words, eating your own muscle tissue. So we're going to talk about some of the things that you can put back into your body after a working fire drill. First issue, of course, hydration. Get water back into your system. But the second issue we're going to go into is glycogen depletion or glycogen replenishment, energy and recovery, and we're going to go over some of the sports drinks that are out there, what ones are good for you and what ones are bad for you. Okay, let's talk about some of the things you should and should not be drinking immediately after a working fire, otherwise called post-fire recovery. Okay, we talked about dehydration and glycogen depletion. So for dehydration, what do we want to drink? Simple as this, good old-fashioned water. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the things you should not be drinking after a working fire that could be actually potentially hazardous to you. Okay, here's soda. Although soda is a refreshment and tastes good after you've sweated at a working fire, soda has phosphates in it, and it's actually a diuretic that will help draw water out of your system, and it doesn't have near enough calories to replenish some of the glycogen that you've depleted at a working fire. Okay, here's a potentially disastrous thing that firefighters have used after working fires, and I'm a firefighter in the Northeast, and I know how good it could feel to feel a hot cup of liquid around your hands on a cold winter night. But firefighters drinking coffee after a working fire, it's potentially dangerous because of the caffeine in coffee. You've already been exposed to smoke and stress, your heart is racing, and caffeine palpitates your heart, already stressed from the smoke and stress of a fire. And there's actually been firefighters who've had what they call a caffeine-induced arrhythmia. They've been exposed to stress, their red blood cells are loaded with carbon monoxide, and now they drink a couple of cups of coffee to warm up after a fire, their heart palpitates even more, and they've had what they call a caffeine-induced arrhythmia. Now here's some of the sports drinks out there on the market, and it seems like Gatorade, Powerade, All Sport, that's some of the top ones that are out there. There's a lot more, and these seem to be the drink of choice for firefighters, not because they're good for you, but because they have great commercials. I've met a lot of firefighters, I say, well, they drink this sport drink or that sport drink, and I turn to them and I say, well, why do you drink it? And he says, well, I saw it on TV. Well, just because you saw it on TV doesn't mean it's good for you. And the most important thing I can tell you about your sports drinks is turn them around. It's as simple as this. And read your labels. On your ingredient list, what you want to be looking for glycogen replenishment or stored carbohydrate replenishment after a working fire is it's a complex carbohydrate-based drink with a small amount of simple sugar. All right, the reason you don't want to use some of these sports drinks out here, one of the biggest reasons is look at the colors. The reason they are these colors is because they use nitrates in it or artificial dyes and chemicals. These aren't things you want to be putting in your body after a working fire or drill. The other reason is read the ingredient list. If you see the first 3 ingredients are sucrose syrup, glucose syrup, fructose syrup, or straight sugar, this is going to make your glucose level go through the roof. Your insulin level is going to counteract it, and it's going to come crashing down. Plus the fact that if you look at the calorie load in some of these drinks, you're looking at 100 calories. We went over before glycogen depletion. You're burning anywhere from 300 to 600 calories at a working fire, not to mention the fact that you may not be able to get to food. You might have the fire knocked down in 15 to 20 minutes. You might be out there overhauling for 3 to 4 hours, or operating in a brush fire 3 to 4 hours. Now you can't put 100 calories of simple sugar back in your system when you've already depleted your body of 300 to 600 calories. So your first ingredient you really want to look for in a sports drink is an ingredient called glucose polymer maltodextrin, and that's a complex carbohydrate. And you need to follow that up with some simple sugars. There's some additional ingredients that I'll go into in a little bit. But these sports drinks in particular seem to be the drink of choice of firefighters. Again, look at the colors. The reason that color is artificial dyes. Read your ingredient list. You'll see sucrose syrup, glucose syrup, simple sugars. Some of them have brominated vegetable oil, cottonseed oil in it. I mean, they make great commercials, and they have their place someplace in sports, but not in firefighting. The calorie load isn't enough, and the artificial ingredients are not something you want to be putting in your body after a working fire. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about I talked about a complex carbohydrate-based drink. I developed the first and only firefighter-specific carbohydrate electrolyte recovery beverage. Now, if we went to our ingredient list here, you'll see that the first ingredient is what we talked about before, glucose polymers, which are long-chain complex carbohydrates, and where they come from, maltodextrin, which is a grain. And then you follow that up with some simple sugar for a little bit of initial energy, and the complex carbohydrates giving you a lot of long-term energy. Now, you can go to a health food store and get a complex carbohydrate-based drink, and there are a lot of good ones out there, but I've added a few additional ingredients in my drink that directly address some of the issues for firefighters. Okay, two of the key ingredients for firefighters, two of the vitamins that help counteract some of the things you've been exposed to. Well, one of the big vitamins is vitamin C. That'll counteract some of the stuff that happened when you've been exposed to smoke and stress. Stress, what you're looking for is a B vitamin load. All right? This drink has a full electrolyte load in it, and some of these drinks have electrolytes, and they're big on touting the use of electrolytes after a working fire. But truthfully, for endurance athletes, if you've been sweating for 24 hours continuously, maybe your electrolyte level might get that low that it would be an issue. Actually, electrolytes are one of the cheapest ingredients that they can throw in a sports drink, and that's why they put it, and they made a nice buzzword out of it. I do have a full electrolyte load also in take-up, but it really isn't an issue for firefighters. I just wanted to cover that. Another ingredient you might want to look at that's also in take-up and is in some of the sports drinks is an ingredient called chromium picolinate. What that is it's an enzyme that helps push the sugar through the cell membrane into the cell so that it can be accessed right away. So basically what you're going to look for is go to a health food store and look for a complex carbohydrate-based drink with a little bit of simple sugar in it that'll give you a little initial energy and a lot of long-term energy. And in calorie amounts, what you're looking for, studies suggest that at a fire you burn 100 grams of carbohydrates, 400 calories. Any more calories than that, you may have some trouble digesting that many calories. So you're looking for 400 calories, 100 grams. Those 100 grams, the bulk of them should be coming from complex carbohydrate. The rest of them should be coming from simple sugars. And it's not a bad idea to look for some other vitamins and minerals, especially vitamin C and especially B vitamins.
Hello, today's health tip is on water and how much you need to drink. For a standard every day, you need to have at least 8 to 10 glasses of water that are 8 ounces each. When you exercise, you need to add 2 to 4 ounces for every 15 minutes of exercise. And that may go up if it's really hot and humid. Now, do other drinks count for this? If you have caffeinated products, you need to add on even more water because the caffeine can cause you to lose more water than you hold on to. If you have products that have a lot of sugar in them, such as a pop, you also need to add water because the sugar needs the water to help it be carried across the membrane. So this is a base amount, 8 to 10 glasses of water each day, and then you add on for the exercise. But it's specific to what you do drink, and you may need to add more. And that's our health tip today.
Consider using these techniques before and after your next fire or drill. Keeping your body hydrated with water and replenished with carbohydrates in your post-recovery efforts will make a great difference in the way you perceive your career as a firefighter. You've worked hard to become a safe, conscientious firefighter, so work just as hard to keep well and continue in top form. The consideration of post-fire recovery should be an important aspect in your life as a firefighter.
Okay, let's go over some of the things we learned today about post-fire recovery. We talked about dehydration from perspiration due to all the gear and apparatus we wear. We also talked about glycogen or stored carbohydrate depletion. And we went over some of the recovery drinks to recover from dehydration and carbohydrate depletion. We're going to use water for our rehydration, and we're going to use a complex carbohydrate-based drink of sufficient calories. Those calorie amounts again were 400 calories and 100 grams of carbohydrates. And we also talked about some of the potentially disastrous things you could be drinking after a working fire or drill. We went over coffee, and we also went over soda. Well, I hope this information helps you during your periods of post-fire recovery or that critical nutritional time after a working fire or drill.
It has a great significance to all of the members of the fire department. Many of us, like myself, have been on a number of years, can relate to the individuals that's honored at this particular site. Each of their name is engraved in stone, and it serves as a memory, a very appropriate memory of the ones that have made the supreme sacrifice. Very helpful to the family to have a place to come and reflect upon their loved ones, and the way it's located right here in the heart of the city with the city skyline in the background and the beautiful flowers and the shrubbery in the spring and summer and fall. It is truly a very beautiful setting and one that we're very pleased with. This started after the explosion of ammonia nitrate that claimed the lives of 6 of our firefighters.
107, you're reporting an explosion. You need extra company? 10-4, we're going to need ambulances. 10-4, is that for firefighters? 10-4, we've blown the windshield clear out of our car and we're a quarter of a mile away.
I was off duty when the explosion occurred, and it literally rocked me out of bed several miles from the site. And as I listened to the radio traffic and the calls for the company with no response, I called the alarm office, and then I went to the office of the deputy chief and started the process to make the notification to the families involved and sending battalion chiefs to that location. I did not report to the site till later that day, but I did have occasion to visit with all of the families on that particular day, and clearly it was a day of so much sorrow and so much suffering for those families involved and for the department. And to this day, those people will always be very, very special to all of us in the Kansas City, Missouri Fire Department. Several times in the past, we had tried to generate an effort to erect a memorial to honor our firefighters, but we really had not carried through on that. After the explosion of ammonia nitrate and the loss of the 6 brothers, then there was a community-wide outpouring, effort, and support to build a fountain that would pay tribute to not only those 6 firefighters, but to all of the firefighters that have lost their lives serving the community. So through a community-wide effort of public and private sector cooperation, a lot of people donated money, material, labor, and everything necessary to build this beautiful tribute to our firefighters. And it not only honors the firefighters that lost their life, the front statue honors firefighters across the nation as they look forward to the challenges of the 21st century, look forward to what's ahead of them, and meet it with optimism and courage. I think it symbolizes the firefighting profession, and the sacrifices that these men and women make all across the country, and I think that that's what I want them to be aware of, that these people put their lives on the line every day to make our community safer, and that the service that they offer is just very hard to describe, the effort and the heartaches that goes along with this profession, but the opportunity to help people makes it very special. And these firefighters, they exemplify that caring professional that goes out each day, and he or she does their job to the very best of their ability, trying to make a difference in the community. And these people have made some real differences in our community and made our city safer and saved a number of lives in the course of their career. And they're very special people. And whether they're in the police department or the fire service or emergency medical service, all of these agencies they have one mission, and that's to serve our community and do so in a caring way.